This right here is watchOS 10, and it is the biggest software update that the Apple Watch has ever received. Anyone with a Series 4 or newer will be able to enjoy it, so here are not 5, not 10, but 20 of its biggest updates. Okay, so the biggest update is that we now have widgets in watchOS, which were rumored before, and they're called Smart Stack. And unlike the rumors, they're not on the watch face, and also, unlike what we believed, they're not on the app drawer either. Instead, they sit under your watch face. So you simply turn the digital crown to reveal the Smart Stack, which includes widgets for calendar, weather, activity, currently playing music, and much more. And these widgets would also dynamically update. So for example, if you start a podcast, a card for the podcast would actually appear first. So very similar to the Siri watch face that we've had up until now. If you set a timer, you can also see that in the Smart Stack and so on. But I think the best thing about a Smart Stack is that it can actually have a stack with multiple apps. So essentially the folders that were previously rumored for things such as music, timer, workouts, and so on, all in one stack. This is a great idea as it allows you to have a simpler watch face and then have your main info in the Smart Stack. But how does this affect certain watch faces that make use of the digital crown? For example, with the Solargraph watch face, you can use the crown to scroll through the different phases of the sun. Now, if you use the crown, it will automatically enable the Smart Stacks. Well, to get the previous functionality, you now have to tap on the watch face, and then you can use the crown to navigate the watch face. Okay, now another big change is with the side button. So before watchOS 10, you would tap it once for recent apps, and then tap it twice for Apple Pay. In watchOS 10, tapping it twice still shows you the Apple Pay option, but then tapping it once now brings you to the control center. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. I don't really use the control center that much aside from connecting my AirPods. And you used to be able to swipe up from the watch face to enable the control center. Now that gesture simply brings up the Smart Stack. So a dedicated button just for the control center, I don't know. So how do you access the recent apps now? Well, you can do that by double tapping the crown. When it comes to pinning your favorite apps, that is no longer possible, at least not using any buttons. You can still pin apps using the Smart Stack, and of course you can reorganize them and pin them to the top, and you get a lot more functionality this way. The next change is really interesting. They haven't really talked about this at all at the event, but they've redesigned the app page. And this is the first redesign we ever got since watchOS was introduced almost 10 years ago. So you now navigate the app page by using the crown to scroll up and down rather than zooming in and out, which makes it much easier to navigate. Oh, and the traditional list view is still available. On top of that, most first-party apps have now been redesigned. So instead of showing you this black background that we've had since watchOS 1, all first-party apps now have a full color background, like the iOS apps. So if we take a look at a weather app, there is a major difference now. Same applies to the Stocks app. If you take a look at the Activity app, we now get a color background for each activity. And a redesigned UI, which is much simpler to navigate. The Clock app has been redesigned as well, where the background of each location would now match the time of the day in that location, and even the heart rate app gets a fresh coat of paint. So yeah, it looks awesome. My only concern is when it comes to the battery life. You see, the reason for the apps having a black background for almost 10 years is because black is really efficient for an OLED display, as the black portions of that display would be entirely off. So I do believe that this will actually have an impact on the battery life. And there are also some questionable changes. For example, if you take a look at the weather app, you have to press the button here to change between the different views, like the temperature, wind, UV index, and so on. But before, you could just keep on scrolling and get the same info, which I believe was much easier than having to tap. And all of these changes could actually be a reason for Apple encouraging people to update their Apple Watch to the Series 7 or newer for better battery life, faster charging, and also those really thin bezels that make this whole colorful UI look so much better. This next update is pretty huge. We now have topographic maps that you can use to easily see mountains, rivers, lakes, and also hiking trails. You can browse them and select the trail that you want to take, and it will also tell you the difficulty. Although this seems to be restricted to the US only at launch. You automatically get alerts once you've surpassed an elevation threshold, so yeah, this is an awesome update for hikers. And one of my most requested features is actually here, kind of. It is offline maps. And it does work, but you need to have your iPhone with you and have a specific area of the map selected available for offline access. So once you do that, you'll be able to see that map on the Apple Watch as well. But if you only have your Apple Watch with you, you won't be able to see that map. And we also get a smarter compass. So the backtrack feature was introduced last year, but this year we now get a 3D view that just makes it easier to navigate, as we can now see the elevation as well. And we also get 2 automatic waypoints: the last time you've had a cellular signal and also where you've last been able to have an emergency call from, both of which are very useful in case you get lost. And Apple Fitness Plus also gets a big update with custom workout plans. You can select how many days you want to have a plan for, what sort of exercises, and also what trainer. And then the Apple Watch will automatically create a selection for you. Yeah, it's pretty great, as Apple Fitness Plus now has hundreds of different workouts, so this is a really easy way to make a selection. And we also get Bluetooth accessories for cycling, and this was one of the main reasons for cyclists to get a Garmin watch instead of the Apple Watch, because it had the ability to connect third-party accessories to those watches for things such as measuring your speed, your power, your cadence, and much more. But now you can connect those Bluetooth accessories to the Apple Watch as well. Of course, likely a more limited selection compared to what Garmin offers, but you do have that option now. And another cool update for cycling is that you can now attach your phone onto your bike. Normally you do this for navigation or some third-party apps that show you some cycling stats. And now your iPhone will show you the data from the Apple Watch, like the heart rate, your speed, your elevation, power, heart rate zones, and so on. Of course, for cycling power, you will need external tracking accessories. But yeah, this is an awesome feature. It's a shame that it's not really showing you a map as well. That could have been very useful. And you also don't have side-by-side multitasking in iOS 17, so it's not like you can open up a map at the same time. So in my case, I think I'll probably just stick to the map, but it is a useful new feature to have. And just like every year, we also get a few new watch faces too this time. The first one is called Paulette, and it looks quite nice. Very similar to the gradient watch face that we've had for a while now. It's just that now you get 2 different colors. And the second one is a Snoopy watch face, which actually reacts and updates based on the current weather conditions and also based on the workout and the exercises that you're doing. You can also log your mental state now and keep track of your daily mood. What's really cool about this is that you can also link your mental state to certain activities, like how does getting more sleep affect your mood or working out. Not only that, but in iOS 17 we got a new feature that lets you leave a FaceTime voicemail if someone doesn't answer you. Well, now you can actually watch that FaceTime voicemail on the Apple Watch itself. And you can also take part in group FaceTimes, only through voice, but yeah, that's also possible on the Apple Watch now. And now you can also use your Apple Watch to keep track of the time you've spent in daylight. This is mostly for avoiding nearsightedness in children, but anyone can keep track of the stat in the Health app. Although this only works on the Apple Watch Series 6 or later, the SE2 or later, as well as the Apple Watch Ultra. And we also got a new feature called Optimized Charge Limit, which was previously available only on the Apple Watch Ultra. This is not to be confused with optimized charging, which limits the charging to 80% until you need to use it. What this does is that it only charges to the amount that you'll need in that day. For example, if your Apple Watch lasts for 2 days normally, but you always charge it at night, like I do, it would make sure that it is close to being discharged when you need to charge it. So it would only charge to like 60% or whatever the number is. This feature is on by default, but you can actually disable it if you need to. We also get Name Drop. This is something that was introduced in iOS 17, and you can actually share your contact card by holding your iPhone close to another person's iPhone. Well, now you can also do it with the Apple Watch in watchOS 10. You just have to hold your watch close to someone's iPhone, and you'll be able to share your contact card. And if you're a company and you buy your employees a few Apple Watches, you can now enroll them onto an MDM, which was not possible before. You can also configure VPNs for your employees and also deploy internal apps, which is really cool. And we now get a new API that takes advantage of the new accelerometer inside the Series 8 and the Ultra, which means that those developers can now make better apps for improving and tracking your golfing, for example. And if you use medication reminders, you can now get follow-up reminders, and these can be critical alerts too that would bypass the Do Not Disturb mode. Now let's talk about supported devices. So you can get watchOS 10 on the Series 4 or later. Like I said, it also works on the SE. But you do need to have iOS 17 on your iPhone installed, meaning that you also need an iPhone XS or newer. And I gotta say, the performance is actually pretty bad on the Series 4, at least with Beta 1. It's just very slow to do an action and open up apps. So I would suggest to avoid it until we get a later beta, and see if the performance improves, and if it doesn't, unless you have a Series 6 or later, just don't install it. But yeah, feel free to check out our iOS 17 features video as well as our Apple Vision Pro, and do subscribe for more videos on everything that Apple has announced at WWDC in the coming days. I'm Daniel, Enough Tech, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Enough Tech, signing out. Cheers.